low testosterone. Now this is becoming a very popular boogeyman. It's much like adrenal fatigue, but different because adrenal fatigue doesn't truly exist. It's actually adrenal insufficiency. You should be evaluated for it. It's very serious. Low testosterone also very serious. You should be evaluated for it. However, I find that most of the information out there on it is false. And so what we're going to get into here is understanding what low testosterone actually is. And I'm going to say that I am opposed to TRT as a first line of treatment. However, obviously, it is completely appropriate for things like primary hypogonadism, Klinefelter's Kallman syndrome. The list goes on. By no means do I want to be comprehensive here and go through a list that will take me, another 5 minutes of just rambling. Here's the deal. Whenever you have low testosterone, it can be primary, which means that it's happening at the testicles. It can be secondary, which means it's happening at the pituitary gland. And it can be tertiary, which means it's happening at the hypothalamus. It's very important to understand that, because it's completely possible that yours is tertiary, occurring in the hypothalamus, and your testicles are completely fine. It's possible that it's secondary, pituitary, and your testicles are completely fine. If you were to go on testosterone replacement therapy and start injecting testosterone, which is the first line of treatment for many doctors because they don't know enough about evaluating these things, at that point your testicles will shut down, because as soon as you put exogenous testosterone in the system, the testicles will shut down, and then you'll have testicular atrophy, and it'll be very hard for you to ever come off. So if you have secondary and find out later, oh, it wasn't primary, but you're already on TRT, your ability to come off of it, you're not going to be able to. So that's why I'm very opposed to putting people on TRT just as soon as you see that they have low testosterone. Let me get into this and explain. So first off, you go in, you get your blood test, and it says, oh, your testosterone level's 240. Okay, sure, you have low testosterone. What's very important is that they actually check LH and FSH. That's luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. Without those, you really don't know that you truly have primary hypogonadism. That is whenever your testicles are not producing testosterone. Now, if you go to a good endocrinologist, instead of just going to your GP, an endocrinologist will certainly test your LH and FSH. If your LH and FSH are low, then you likely have secondary hypogonadism. So, what that means is that your pituitary isn't sending a signal, in which case you have a variety of other options, actually. So some doctors will use clomiphene, what's also called Clomid, and that actually works. You have feedback loops, and that's how your body actually recognizes when to produce testosterone. So actually the whole thing is run by estrogen. So your estrogen level signals to your brain. We're just going to make it super basic. Instead of getting into hypothalamus, pituitary, and gonadotropin releasing hormone. Basically, your estrogen level signals to your brain. Your brain recognizes whenever the estrogen level is low, and then tells the brain to produce more testosterone. So the brain sends that signal down. It's hypothalamus to pituitary goes down to the testes, and boom, you produce testosterone. That's how that signal works. If that signal gets disrupted, and there's a variety of things that can cause that, putting patients on things like clomiphene can actually restore the production of testosterone, because now your pituitary will start sending that signal again, and your testes will produce their own endogenous testosterone. If you can't do that, HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin, can be injected, and that will actually trigger the testicles to produce testosterone, because HCG mimics luteinizing hormone. So there's another way that this can also be restored without injecting testosterone as a drug. Now, technically, clomiphene and HCG would still fall under testosterone replacement therapy, but I just want to clarify that it's different than prescribing testosterone cypionate or any of these other. I know that there's now, we have pellets and all these other things and the transdermal gels, but it would be different than exogenous testosterone as a medication. So, that being said, if you find on a blood test that you have low testosterone, the very first thing you should do is go see an endocrinologist and be evaluated to see if you have normal luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. You should also be evaluated to see if you have prolactin levels that are elevated. If your prolactin level is high, you may actually have something called a prolactinoma, which is a type of pituitary adenoma. It's a benign tumor that secretes prolactin. That prolactin inhibits the pituitary gland from producing luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. If you have this, you need to have that treated. You have to have that tumor treated in order to restore your natural pathways so that your pituitary will start producing luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone again, which will then, of course, send the signal to the testicles to produce testosterone. Okay. Another issue that I see, and this is very common in the fitness industry, is guys get way too lean, right? They cut down for a show. If you look at natural bodybuilders, okay, when they reach their peak for a competition and they're extremely lean, they actually have hypogonadal levels of testosterone. Now, that's just simply a matter of the fact that whenever you are extremely lean, you have a reduction in a lot of your hormones, and especially leptin. So as your leptin level drops, because you have so few fat cells, your ghrelin level increases. This whole feedback loop, the body recognizes that it's under stress. Well, your hormones, and it's a pathway of like pregnenolone that actually comes down. You produce DHEA and cortisol and all these other things like that through this pathway. When you're under stress, you produce less sex hormone, so you have less testosterone. Because your body is so busy doing other things. Like procreation is not at the top of the list anymore. You're starving. Let's be honest with ourselves here. Like if you diet down to really low levels, it's basically just planned starvation. So you are purposely starving yourself in order to lose more body fat. That stress on your system, your body recognizes that and says, you know what? Procreation isn't the most important thing right now. So I'm not going to put a whole lot of resources to producing testosterone. So chill out. If you see your testosterone level drop whenever you're trying to get shredded lean, that's just simply a matter of the fact that you've lost so much fat and your body is under stress. When you regain that fat, when you go back to normal body fat levels, your testosterone level will come back up. Another thing that can do it is overtraining. If you overtrain, your body is put under a massive amount of stress. Your body says, hey, producing testosterone isn't all that important right now. I have to produce all these other hormones, cortisol even, in order to manage the fact that I'm under so much stress from overtraining. If you stop overtraining, your hormone levels will come back up. Okay, so you can actually put external stressors on yourself, like a huge caloric deficit, or overtraining, and those things will lower your testosterone level. This is really common in endurance athletes. They do so much volume. They're putting their bodies under this massive amount of stress, all this cortisol all the time, because you're running 100 miles a week or something like that. And that's not an exaggeration. I have had people, even myself included, running over 100 miles a week. And when you're doing that, you will see really weird shifts in your hormones. You'll see testosterone go down. You'll see cortisol go way up. You'll see changes in ACTH. That's actually, so your pituitary gland produces ACTH. That ACTH gets sent to your adrenals. That's how your adrenals know to produce cortisol. And that, as I mentioned earlier about the adrenal insufficiency, we're not going to go into that in this video, but you can have Addison's even, which is a failure of the adrenal gland. That's an autoimmune condition where the adrenal gland cannot produce the cortisol. In any case, the point is that there's a whole list of other things that can cause your testosterone level to be low. In fact, even obesity. If you are obese, you have a higher level of aromatization. What's happening is the testosterone you are producing is getting converted into estrogen. As that estrogen level goes up, it tells the brain, hey, we don't need to produce as much testosterone because we have this excess of estrogen. As I explained at the beginning, the whole system, this feedback loop, is regulated by estrogen levels, actually. That's why sometimes if people have high estrogen, doctors will put them on an aromatase inhibitor, and that will actually raise their testosterone level because it lowers the level of testosterone being aromatized into estrogen. So therefore, then it lowers the estrogen level, and now the pituitary goes, oh, hey, we need more testosterone. So that's actually documented. I encourage you guys, don't just take my word for it. Go to PubMed and look this stuff up. So long story short, if you go in and you find out that you have low testosterone levels on a blood test, don't just jump straight to TRT. Figure out why. Figure out what's wrong. Because, and this is the reason why I'm a huge advocate of doing further testing. If you have an underlying issue, like a pituitary adenoma that is a prolactinoma, when we put these patients on testosterone replacement therapy, they don't actually feel any better because they didn't fix the underlying issue. Same thing goes for thyroid problems. People that have an underlying thyroid problem, oh, I'm fatigued, I feel awful all the time. They go in, they get the blood test says, oh, you have low testosterone. They go on testosterone and they're like, I'm on testosterone. My blood level's, 600. I still feel awful. Well, of course you do. You're hypothyroid. Like, you have no thyroid hormones circulating. No wonder you're exhausted and you're fatigued. So it's really important to check testosterone levels. I'm 100% saying testosterone is important here. But what I'm also saying is that simply restoring that level is not always a cure-all. It's not going to suddenly fix all the fatigue that you're feeling. Because if you have another underlying issue, like a thyroid problem or a pituitary problem, you're still going to feel awful even if someone gives you the testosterone. And so basically it's just a list of things that you need to check and rule out before you go to that final step. And so, like, even for myself, when I saw that I had low testosterone levels, I was like, well, I've been doing 2-a-days. I'm in a caloric deficit and I'm extremely lean. Yeah, so all I need to do is back off the training, okay, increase the calories and get back to a normal, body fat level. And sure enough, that brought my levels back up. I was like 790 something. And that's all it took. All it took was for me to stop training like an idiot, start eating like a normal person again, and get back to a normal level of body fat, instead of chasing being, extremely lean. So all I'm expressing here is that sometimes low testosterone can be caused by other things besides primary hypogonadism, which is the testicles no longer working, and you should look for those other underlying issues. Even things like a glucagon stimulation test can be a great way for an endocrinologist to evaluate your entire hormonal axis, because you could have an adrenal problem, you could have like adrenal insufficiency, you could have a thyroid problem, you could have so many other things that screw with that feedback loop that's causing you to have low testosterone. And if you fix those things, you'll feel much better than just simply going on testosterone and having a normal testosterone level. I mean, I see this all the time. I see guys post about how, I'm on TRT and I still feel awful. I'm on TRT and I still have erectile dysfunction. I'm on TRT and I'm still exhausted and fatigued, and I still have all these problems and issues. Well, of course you do. Of course you do, because you didn't find the actual underlying cause. Now, if you do have primary hypogonadism and you go on testosterone, you're going to feel great. So by all means, you should go on medication if that actually is the appropriate medication for your condition. But I think that there's this perception that has been perpetuated in the fitness industry that just going on TRT will fix everything, especially for guys that are in their 40s. And it's not that simple. Things are never that simple. Nothing is that simple. I mean, you can't just take a diabetic, give them insulin, and magically everything goes back to normal and they're cured. It doesn't work that way. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a benefit to it, but if you don't correct underlying things like a thyroid issue, you're still going to have other symptoms that you're going to be dealing with, and you're not going to feel well. So that's my rant. No, I don't know if I'm really ranting, but that's my opinion on testosterone levels, low testosterone levels, and how to approach them. is to first figure out why your testosterone level is low. You know, God forbid you have a tumor. So definitely get that checked and make sure you don't have a tumor. It's a simple MRI. Like, it's 40 minutes of your time to rule that out. If you don't bother with 40 minutes, I don't believe that you really care that much about your health. So you should absolutely have other things ruled out and checked. Besides, if you're going in and getting a blood test anyways, like, it's nothing for your doctor to add a few extra things like, oh, let's check the LH, let's check the FSH, you know, let's check your T4 and T3 and TSH, and it's one blood draw. So it's not like I'm asking you, oh, you have to do a separate blood draw for every single one. It's one blood draw. Discuss it with your doctor. Let them know that you want to make sure that it's not something else causing it. And that's my take on it. And I wish you all the best of luck. If you have low testosterone, I hope that you find the cause. And I hope that your doctor works with you and helps you to address that cause. And for those of you who are just extremely lean and overtraining, as much of us do, if you like training, you will probably overtrain at some point because you actually enjoy training, so you'll probably do too much of it. And oftentimes all you know to do is just back it off. You know, like, I love to run, so, you know, I would go for a run every day, and very quickly those miles accumulate. Just backed it off, and suddenly everything felt much better. I like to lift. I like lifting so much, doing 2 and 3 times a day, I actually still enjoy it. I'm not miserable doing 2 and 3 days. But it's more than my body can recover from. It's too much stress on the system, and so I just have to back that off, and I train once a day. That's all there is to it. Sometimes all you had to do was just reduce the training volume. So that single marker, it tells you something, but it doesn't tell you everything. And that's all I wanted to explain in this. So good luck to you.